Arratsaldeon, muy buenas tardes a todos y bienvenidos a la rueda de prensa correspondiente a la película The Hauptmann, una coproducción entre Alemania, Francia y Polonia que se proyecta hoy dentro de la sección oficial del Festival de San Sebastián. Nos acompañan en esta mesa su director y guionista, Robert Schwanke, asimismo los actores Max Ubacher, Milan Peschel, Frederick Lau y Bernhard Holscher, y también el compositor y autor de la banda sonora, Martin Todsmarrow. Bueno, que perdonen por la pronunciación, que seguramente no tiene nada que ver con la realidad, pero bueno, eso es. Cuando quieran comenzamos ya con la primera pregunta.
Bueno, antes que nada, muchas gracias por esta película y felicidades. Y bueno, yo comentaba antes, no sé por qué se ha elegido el blanco y negro, bueno, realmente le da mucho empaque a la película, pero ¿por qué se ha elegido el blanco y negro? Quizás porque ¿nos queremos retratar al pasado o lo queremos dejar en el pasado?
There is an anecdote about Martin Scorsese shooting tests for Raging Bull, and he shot them, tests in the ring when they were fighting, and he shot them in color, and he showed the test footage to Michael Powell, of course one of the all-time greats, and Michael Powell said, "You can't shoot this movie in color because nobody will be able to actually look beyond the blood." And he suggested black and white so that people could look beyond the violence and not be repelled by it. So that was and I thought that was incredibly astute and intelligent in terms of how people watch and receive and emotionally react to films. And then the other reason was we know most of the research photos as black and white. So that was a second layer, kind of it seemed appropriate. But it also created a distance, and I knew I wanted to be able to, when needed, to step back a little bit. And I'm not a big fan of naturalism, so all of those reasons came together.
Hello. Hi, I'm here. I wanted to ask both the main actor and the director about the main character, because I am confused about something. I have the feeling that the guy was actually enjoying doing all this wild stuff. It did feel like that the more and more he was enjoying more and more. But then there's this scene in which he screams that implies that he's actually having a really hard time doing all this stuff and everything is play pretend.
Which scene where he's screams?
There's one in which he screams like, it looks like I
understood
sure. He's thinking, he's screaming, he's not really doing it. So that implies that he's actually having a really hard time and everything is pretend. So what's your view on that?
Well, there's an infamous officer of the SS called Karl Jäger, who was responsible to make Lithuania, Jew-free. You know, of course, we know what that means. And he participated in his first massacre and wrote into his diary how hard it was for him to witness the massacre, how he had bad dreams, so I found that interesting, because you would think someone like that, who is such a hardcore ideologist, wouldn't be touched by that, because he has dehumanized the enemy to the degree where it's, you know, like squashing cockroaches. But it wasn't the case, so I think it's a very natural human response to be repelled by it when you witness it for the first time. Now, the difference between people then is, of course, the ones who show up the next day again, you know, which was Karl Jäger, and those who don't show up the next day. So I felt it was a very human response. I think it's even bad people can feel repelled. What was the other part of the question?
Yeah, well, I think he's enjoying these situations where he's in which he is surviving. He's enjoying to survive, and not enjoying what he's doing. The character has to do what he has to do to survive, and when he survives, I think then he is enjoying it. So, but yeah.
We also talked about the character in terms of, he's juggling in the beginning, and we always talked about the character as a juggler, who is like, now I got 5 apples. Okay, give me one more. Let's see how many more. Okay, now I have 7. And he will continue to add more apples to it until they fall down. That was kind of the idea too, so.
Over here. Why the emphasis on deserters?
Beg your pardon?
Why the emphasis on deserters? Why is why are the victims of your movie specifically deserters for most of the time, and not, say, prisoners of war of other countries? Or
because they weren't. It's just, that's how it was. They were deserters. The camp was a work camp that was under the jurisdiction of the Army and of the Justice Department, and it was specifically and solely for people who had been soldiers and who had stolen or deserted. And at that point in time, you have to realize it wasn't, we found all these write-ups in newspapers at that time, where in small cities, in small towns, villages, all of a sudden from one day to the next, 2,000 deserters would show up. So it was a very real danger to the machine. It was visibly falling apart.
is it the first time that German cinema, German movies deal with the issue of desertion within in such a brutal way? Because
there are a couple of films that deal with desertion, but it's not really something that has been dealt with. I would go further and say there are only 2 films since 1945, which I find symptomatic for German cinema, that are told from the perspective of the perpetrators. And we have, of course, a lot of films that are told from the perspective of the victims, and those are necessary films. But for some reason, German cinema has shied away from looking at it from the other angle because, it's just not something they were salivating.
so you're trying to break new ground?
Yes.
Opening up something on
Yes.
a specific aspect of the deserters of the Wehrmacht?
Yes.
And how they were treated.
And also tell the story from the point of view of the perpetrators, because I think it forces the audience to deal with different questions. If they don't immediately find themselves on the proper moral side of the argument, or if they can't hang on to a so-called good character, I think it forces the audience to experience, or hopefully it forces the audience to experience the film differently. It's a little less safe. And we intentionally didn't give the audience a little door to
Are there
escape.
historical records on the deserters? I mean, is this?
Oh yeah.
How many people were slaughtered? How
Oh
many
yeah.
deserters?
It's all that they were shot with the cannon. All of that it's all true. Yeah.
Siguiente pregunta, por favor.
Can you give us a little bit of a background story of the main character, because he seems to come out of nowhere and we don't get much information how he develops to such an awful beast afterwards?
That of course is intentional. We wanted to leave a kind of a white spot with him. We didn't want to make a film where we explained necessarily what he was doing through terms from clinical psychology or from any other kind of. We didn't want to put him into a box, and his past is a mystery. He's a historical figure, but he is, of course, he was in real life an unreliable narrator. The story how he found the uniform, we only know from him. And it sounds awfully convenient that he just found it. I mean, we stuck with that. But it seems to me that's just one way of him trying to not have to admit to more theft. You know, he was a chimney sweeper. There was nothing in his past that would have, identified him as the person he became.
Hi again. I understood earlier that you took care of the music, Martin.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
I would like to ask about that because some of the best scenes I've seen were really disturbing because of the combination of the images and the music. So I would like to know how you got to, how you made it up. Or how do you combine both things?
Yeah, thank you, because that disturbing moments we wanted to create. I think the whole story, the whole film is an actual topic too. And that's why we decided not to go in a classical way, like a normal period picture, to have some classical score or whatever, because of its actuality and because of the shooting and the directing and how the actors are habiting. That's really artificial. It's and so it denies a special score, and so we decided to do a I can say modern electronical score. You can't decide, is it sound design or is it musical sound design, whatever. With the aim to have to get you physically, probably it works, and hopefully it is in this way. And I had the freedom to do this because of my director, because from the first moment on, when I read the script, I had the feeling we have to go in a totally different way, because I knew that the approach of Robert was to go other ways too, and so you have to hear it in the music, in the score, also.
Robert just said that also it was important that even if it's in black and white, we want to show that it's really a modern film from our time. The music is a very important statement. Not only the end credits, of course, that's important too, but the music is a clear statement that it's a film from now and couldn't be made like, or what you say?
Yeah, I think it's a real actual topic what we have. We have so many countries where you can see similar situations too, and especially after the selection in Germany too, we have to deal with all these irritations, and so we wanted to have this influence in the music too, and in the whole film. It's I think it's an historical topic, but it's a modern film, and so it denies a modern score too. So
yeah, and
that was my approach.
For us the story is very modern or up to date. If you look at a lot of dictatorships growing up, or we have been developing the script for the last nearly 10 years, and so there was Abu Ghraib, or a lot of terrible things going on, and we said we don't understand all this brutality that is going on in our world. And so it's a historical topic, but it's for us, it's what's happening in the world now. So otherwise we wouldn't have made the film.
And just to add to your question, what is this, kind of propensity for cruelty and injustice that we have in us like poison? I think it's utterly impossible to explain. I think there are examples where you can say it was like this or like that, but there is this thing that lives inside us. Even when it's not out, it's still there. And that was also the reason I'm not sure I have an answer why he does what he does. And I think to then make it about some kind of psychology or I mean, I know it's about food, he wants to eat, but beyond that, I'm not quite sure what it is, and I've over the years done a lot of research, and the more I read, and the more people try to explain it, the less I understand it. It's unfathomable. So in a weird way, we were hoping that the film would be some sort of prophylactic, that you can sort of, that forces you to think about certain things, or inspires you to think about certain things. I can't force anybody to do anything, hopefully.
Siguiente pregunta, por favor. Por favor.
Yeah, I just wanted to know from the actors, how do you get ready for this, for the role, and if it affected you somehow to portray such brutal characters?
Yeah, for me, I can say you don't have to prepare that much, because the first thing Robert, or not the first, but one of the first things Robert told me was, be aware, we don't want to show a monster at any time. We just want to show a human being who is worried about things, and he has a wife, and and so I think you just was ist Angst? Also you just have to keep the fear in yourself, and so I have the fear in me, and I have the fear in other characters, and this is I think the character with the most fear I've ever played, and that causes the most brutality, and yeah, I think so. So you just have to listen to your fear, and then there comes something bad. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm not.
And I think it's also a group thing. If there's one who started, and then it's just everybody's is falling just in like a craziness, because they don't think anymore. I think it's just like some wolves are seeing something and just grab the deer or something like that. Yeah.
No, and I think you of course you have to put down your moral if you play such a role. So because otherwise you would standing there the whole during the whole shooting, and then thinking always, oh my God, what I'm going to do. So you have to put your moral down, and of course it's not possible doing that always. Of course there were some situations which were pretty hard. But you have the logic of the character, and it's about the understanding of the logic of the character. And if you get that, then I think it's gonna work. And you have to know why you're doing it. And I think that's what I said before. The main part is actually survive. And in that point, Harold loses, get lost with the uniform, of course. Yeah.
Siguiente pregunta.
Bueno, felicidades por la película. Para Robert, me gustaría que nos hablase un poquito de esos títulos de crédito finales, en los que entiendo que también quiere plantear ese dilema del pasado, pero trayéndolo al presente, ¿no? No sé, me gustaría que hiciera una reflexión al respecto.
I think it kind of speaks for itself. I'm not sure what I can add. We were, it was improvised, the whole thing. It was on the last day, and I just thought it would be very interesting. I didn't quite know what we would even do with it, if it would be in the movie or not, and I just said, let's just get in the car, and we didn't have permits or anything, and we just drove through that part, and then on the square, when they start hassling people, some of those people I put there, but they didn't know who it was, which was interesting. But I just thought there was something there that interested me. And we, at first, tried it in color. That was sort of the initial idea, that we would have a color piece at the end of the film, and it felt like reality had invaded our film. And that's when we decided, okay, let's try it the other way and try it in black and white, where it seemed like we were actually invading reality, and that kind of clicked for me. And we just thought, you know, if you don't know why we made the movie, up until that moment, you will know after that what drove us.
In this scene, there were even some kids who were helping us controlling the other people. It was pretty absurd. So, they helped us. It was absurd. So it generated a completely new situation, because you react as a character from past with people from today, for real. Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the people we had put there was shaking when she's partially in there, but then our operator said, I can't do this anymore. He didn't know it was somebody we had set there, and he thought that it was a real person. So it got pretty nerve-wracking for these guys too. There were, some of you had a hard time with that. Others didn't, but some did.
Siguiente pregunta, por favor. ¿No hay más preguntas?
Maybe I'd like to know a little bit about the main character, and then Milan Pesce also, maybe you can comment on your character, maybe as very opposite in a way. Dankeschön.
Können Sie es mir nochmal auf Deutsch sagen, bitte?
Ja, wunderbar. Nee, einfach mal ein bisschen den eigenen, also die Person beschreiben, den Charakter, wie Sie diese Person erarbeitet haben und den Zugang gefunden haben.
Ja, muss ich jetzt auf Englisch antworten? Kann ich es auch auf Deutsch sagen?
Deutsch? Luis? Nein? No. Englisch?
No. Mein Englisch ist leider ganz schlecht, mein Englisch. Vielleicht könnt ihr ja übersetzen.
Soll ich übersetzen? Puedo traducirlo, ¿eh?
Ja.
¿Sí? Si no os importa, lo traduzco del alemán al castellano.
Danke. Ja, wie habe ich mir das erarbeitet? Also ich fand ganz wichtig, dass man Proben macht vorher. Wir haben sehr viel probiert mit Robert. Das fand ich eigentlich den entscheidenden Teil bei also um einen Eingang zu finden in seine Welt. Und das war für mich schon der wichtigste Teil, diese Zeit. Ich habe ein bisschen was gelesen natürlich auch, aber die Zeit ist ja, wenn man aus Deutschland kommt und sich mit der Vergangenheit, also mit der Gegenwart auseinandersetzt, ja durchaus immer präsent. Und ja, das war letztendlich die Vorbereitung. Also man muss das gar nicht so mystifizieren irgendwie, dass es da so eine... Ja, übersetzen erstmal. Ja.
Sorry. Ja, sonst vergesse ich es. Lo más esencial han sido las pruebas que han tomado su tiempo y ha sido una parte muy importante en este sentido, y a la hora de enfrentar esa época dentro de Alemania, esa época histórica, pues es muy importante, ¿no? Ubicarse, que es una cosa que no es muy fácil en este caso. Y bueno.
Wird wahrscheinlich stimmen. Danke fürs Übersetzen. Ja.
Ich würde gerne noch eine Frage anschließen, und zwar, Ihr Charakter ist ja fast so ein sensibler Gegenpart zu der Hauptfigur. Und wenn Sie gezwungen werden, nachher diese Deserteure da auch zu erschießen, dann gibt Ihnen das Drehbuch leider keine Möglichkeit mehr, irgendwie Ihre Veränderung, die da stattgefunden hat, noch zu zeigen oder so. Das fand ich schade.
Ja,
Wo ist der Drehbuchautor?
Da kann ich leider gar nichts dazu sagen. Also,
das ist halt schade.
Schade. Schade. Ich habe das beim Drehen nicht so empfunden. Weil ich das immer als für mich war das ja sowieso ein Prozess, ne? Wir haben auch relativ chronologisch gedreht. Ich habe versucht natürlich immer diesen Konflikt darzustellen. Das ist ja auch eine Figur, die überleben will, ne? Und Deswegen sei Ihnen diese Feststellung natürlich nicht genommen. Ne?
I felt that I felt we addressed it. I felt like there's a change that occurs. Possibly the change is a non-change, possibly. And I think that he spends a certain amount at the party dealing with it, and then he goes on. And I you know, of course it destroyed a part of him, but I don't, why not continue in his position? You know, he's not somebody who would rebel. Even when he sees the long pants, he doesn't rebel. He just stays on.
¿Alguna otra pregunta? Okay, thank you very much. Muchísimas gracias a todos.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you.